Hello everybody and welcome back to TRUDGE, a journey to being recovered. My name is Dexter. I am a recovered drug alcoholic, and happy anniversary to the meeting of our co-founders Bill and Dr. Bob. They met today, 79 years ago. And so welcome back to those of you who have been following the program for the last 3 months now. We've been doing this. We are up to the chapter called More About Alcoholism. This is a very good chapter, and we're going to start moving through step 1 here. There are a few stories in this chapter that speak, to me very, very highly in relation to thinking that there may be some point where I could successfully drink again. This chapter illustrates, the disease of alcoholism in all its facets, and we start talking about, some of the other men and women who suffered mightily at the hands of this malady and what happened to them. After this chapter, we're going to move into a chapter called We Agnostics. So that's going to take up basically the next 2, maybe 3, almost maybe even 4 weeks, depending on how far we get. So before we open up the book study, we're going to go ahead and say a third step prayer for those of us who care to join. It's on page 63 for those of you who do not know it. For those of you who have been following me to this point, it's going to be highlighted pink. Pink stands for prayers. Let's invite the God of our own understanding in, and let's get started. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. All right, everybody. Chapter 3, More About Alcoholism. This is on page 30. It starts off by saying, most of us have been unwilling to admit that we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. There's that denial that I'm not like those people, that I can actually drink like these people or use like these people, really kind of in the back of your mind, knowing though that, there's a good chance that you're as bad as, as you're probably denying that you are. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized. And then the rest of the sentence and through the next sentences are going to be underlined, so characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. So from countless vain attempts to every abnormal drinker, that's going to all be underlined. And we're going to reference, that second half to that sentence and the sentence after that. We're going to reference page 151. So I have the words reference, page 151 with an arrow going into those sentences. And we're going to go ahead and turn to page 151. So, on page 151, this is my favorite chapter, chapter 11, A Vision for You. At the end of the very first paragraph, the very last sentence, it says, there was always one more attempt and one more failure. This is going to be referenced from page 30. So from page 30 to 151 and then back. So what we're talking about here is that obsession of the alcoholic, the drug addict, thinking that it will always be different, or it will be different this time, doing the same things and expecting that different result. This is something that if you have some history with this, you may fall under the real alcoholic variety, the real drug addict variety, knowing that it's not good for you, thinking that, well, if I do it this way, or if I only use on weekends, or if I only drink at weddings, or if I only use one specific kind of substance, that it will be different. When I'm more about alcoholism, there's a whole paragraph that we're going to read today that just speaks to, the insanity of thinking that if we mix up and match the way we use or drink or act out, that it will provide a different result, when the fact of the matter is it will absolutely not. It'll probably actually drive you pretty crazy trying to find that, that thing that holds you so you can use successfully. And the sad thing is that day never comes for many of us. So that's our reference today. We're going to go ahead and turn back to page 30. The next sentence is going to be highlighted orange. Orange for important notes. It says the persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. You know, and that's just the truth. You know, it's sad. You know, a lot of people, you know, continue to try to use successfully when, you know, truth of the matter is they've been placed beyond human aid and they cannot. You know, and many of them end up, you know, driving themselves nuts, you know, checking themselves into mental institutions, dying at the hands of this disease, thinking that, you know, I'll just do it differently this time, when the fact of the matter is using is going to be using no matter how you use it or what you use. You know, if you have the control and choice issues that we've been speaking about to this point, there's a good chance that it's going to drive you, you know, to some place you probably really don't want to go. The next paragraph says, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. Okay, the words fully concede, I have underlined. Okay, fully concede. So, this is the first step of recovery, my friends. Okay, this is the first step. We've been doing a lot of work for a lot of months, and now we've finally come to step one. Okay, the first step. Fully conceding to ourselves that, you know, I'm a drug addict, man. I'm an alcoholic, man. Whatever it is, whatever that thing that is plaguing you is, that is the first step of recovery. It goes on to say this is the first step of recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. The word smashed is going to be circled. So it's telling you that we're not like other people. You know, I can't see what Johnny is drinking at, you know, and have 2 beers and walk away and think that I can drink like that. My experience, you know, proves otherwise. And because I may put a couple years or a couple months, you know, or a couple days for, you know, between putting in that substance, I may now pick it up, and, you know, for me to think that I'm going to be able to drink like Johnny after putting some time together, no. You know, that illusion has to be smashed. You know, as a real alcoholic, as a real drug addict, there's never going to be a time or a place where I'm going to be able to use that substance successfully. It's just never going to happen. We, alcoholics, are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. The word control is circled. Remember, control and choice. This is what we're talking about here. Okay, that's the definition of an alcoholic. Someone who has just lost all control of their drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control, ever regains control. So I have real circled because we understand at this point what Bill W. is trying to profess to us about the real alcoholic versus the hard drinker versus the weekend warrior. You know, if you're that real alcoholic, we never regain control. And I have ever regains control, ever recovers control. I have those 3 words highlighted orange. The next sentence is also highlighted orange, and it says all of us. And I have the words all of us circled. It doesn't say some of us. It says all of us. You know, all of us felt at times that we were regaining control. But such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. That's all highlighted orange. So, you know, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, I mean, that's like the pits of hell. That's like that's your bottom. However that looks for you, you know, thinking that it will be different this time, thinking that one day I'll be able to successfully drink or drug, regaining control. I got this, you know, and I've had some of that, you know, some time between substances, you know, and they were brief, you know, 4 weeks. One time I had 4 months on my own, but the bottom line is that without that spiritual awakening, you know, it was just pure abstinence for me, and then having a bad day at work or something like that happened, and I was off and running again. And believe me, it was pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, and this is the story that many of us have had, you know, hitting our bottoms, thinking that we could do it like other people, seeing people who taking drinks with impunity, that knowing that we couldn't do that, but trying to do that anyway, you know, and then falling off the horse or falling off the wagon, however you want to say it, you know, coming back from runs, going out on runs. These are the things that happen to real alcoholics and drug addicts. We are convinced, and the word convinced is circled. So they're telling you that they are convinced that this, to a man, that alcoholics of our type, people like me, you, real alcoholics, real drug addicts throughout history, or in a grip of a progressive illness. We talked about the illness that, the great Dr. William D. Silkworth spoke about in, the chapter that we just read, The Doctor's Opinion, or previously read before There Is a Solution, excuse me. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. So untreated alcoholism, it does not get better. It's like, right, and is a perfect example. Right now I'm dealing with untreated sleep apnea. As I get older, this thing is wearing on me. I'm losing sleep. I'm feeling tired all the time. It's very similar to that. It's taking years off my life. Finally, I'm at a place where I can do something about it. But believe me, it's kind of like the drinking. This has gone on way longer than it should have. I just wasn't willing to do anything about it till now. It's really affecting me. The same thing with the alcoholism. Okay, it doesn't get better unless it is treated. It is a spiritual sickness, therefore it must be treated spiritually. And how do we get to that point? We do that by working the steps the way they have been laid out so masterfully in the detailed pages of this book. It says, we are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed by always still worse relapse. The word always is going to be circled. Always is going to be circled. And so I've experienced that, not with alcohol, but I've experienced that in other areas, putting together quite a bit of, abstinence around whatever the issue was. And then when the lid popped off it was worse than it was before I started to stop doing it. It was really, really bad, always still worse relapse, left to our own devices. We might be able to do this for today. We might be able to do it for tomorrow. Hell, we might be able to do it for 20 years. But without a spiritual experience, a day is going to come where we're going to go back to that because we're not going to have any tools. You understand? And then it's going to be worse than it was before we stopped. In a lot of cases, that's been the experience of millions. That's like the bitter experience of so many drug addicts and alcoholics throughout history. And that's been my experience, Sure, I get to read it in a book, but this is something that I also went through in more forms than just the substance of alcohol. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree. There's no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. It's just never going to happen. Their science hasn't found the remedy for it. There's no pill, no purple pill that you can pop and then be a normal drinker. It just hasn't happened. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. I doubt science will one day accomplish this, and I believe in science wholeheartedly. I just don't see it ever happening. I just really don't. The disease of alcohol is just so... It's just such a deadly one, It's so wired, so off in such an awful manner that to find something that could cure it that simply, I don't know. It's just not something that I believe will ever happen. But who knows? Who knows? Despite all we could say, many who are real alcoholics, and the word "real" is circled, are not going to believe that they are in that class. I know I didn't. I thought I just, was going a little bit overboard from time to time. It wasn't until I tried to stop and realized that I had no control. I had to drink. By every form of self-deception. Now that's a tricky, those two words are going to be circled. That hide and go seek with self that we as addicts and alcoholics do. We get tricky with our own self. Okay, so self-deception and experimentation. They will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. I used to do that a lot. I can put it down, or I'll be the designated driver tonight and then be sneaking beers in the bathroom. Like, it's crazy the way we try to trick ourselves into thinking that we are like normal drinkers. Because I didn't want to give up drinking. I didn't want to give up using, I liked it, but the day came where it turned on me and my world fell apart if I didn't have it. And I was miserable. If anyone who is showing inability to control, there's that word again, control, circled, his drinking, can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. And God bless anyone that can do that. I haven't been able to do that. I know a lot of people who haven't been able to do that. I have tried to do that and failed miserably every single time that I've tried. And it doesn't matter what the substance was. I couldn't stop. I wanted to. I wanted to believe that I could. I wanted to believe that I had the power to do that. But the fact of the matter is that I can't do that. You know, those other people, they're doing what they do. I know for me, that just does not work for me. And if you can relate to that, you may be an alcoholic of, you know, the real variety, a drug addict of that variety. Heaven knows we've tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. You know, absolutely. There's no question about it. I love this paragraph. The whole thing for me is just one big star. I've done all these things and more. You know, I could like increase this paragraph, and I'm sure you people out there who are listening to me speak today could do the same, you know, if this is who you are. It says, here are some of the methods we've tried. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, swearing off forever with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitments to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum. I could add another 4 or 5 pages to that list for different substances besides alcohol as well as alcohol. I mean, it's just insane to think of all the things now that I look back on my career in drinking and drugging that I used to do to try to still be able to control the substance and control the outcomes of what things would happen when I put it in me. So, if you've been doing this work with me from day one, this is going to be highlighted green. Green is for actions. Okay, this should already be highlighted green. POI, point of interest, green. And this is how to take the first step. So, we get someone that comes to us, you know, I like what you've been saying in meetings. You know, I've been hearing about this sponsor I'm supposed to get. You know, I want to work steps. You know, how do I work steps? How do I find, you know, what do I do? Well, the first thing is that we need to diagnose you. You know, again, because if control and choice aren't factoring into your drinking career, you may not need the spiritual solution. There are other things that can help you. You know, the belladonna treatments, sweat lodges, churches, who knows? You know, I've tried them all. They never worked for me, but they may work for that person. But it tells you here that, and this is all green, it says, we do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. You know, we want you to find out if you belong here, you know. Step over to your nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. The word control is underlined. It doesn't say step over to your nearest bar room and get sloshed. You know, it doesn't say, you know, have so much alcohol that they're throwing you out. Or, you know, it doesn't say that. It just says try some controlled drinking. So have 1, have 2, and then try to leave. Try to put it down. You know, it says try to drink and stop abruptly. Try to stop. You know, smoke that 1/2 a joint, take a couple hits, and put it down. You know, and then leave it alone. See if you can do that. Next page, page 32, continuing on, POI green. It says try more than once. You know, do this experiment on yourself. We want you to find out. So this is how you take the first step. It says it will not take long for you to decide if you are honest with yourself about it. The word honest is circled. Honesty is a huge factor in working these steps. If you're honest with yourself about it, you'll know right away if you're an alcoholic of the variety that it's going to take to have, you know, to need a spiritual awakening to have this, you know, disease arrested. It says it may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. So, you know, no one wants to go out and get themselves in a situation where they're going to be waking up with the shakes, you know, but we want you to find out, you know, otherwise we're not going to be able to have a starting jumping off point for you to get the type of help that you need. Again, spiritual awakenings for people who have been placed beyond human aid. If you can control your drinking, you don't need this. You know, you're not an alcoholic. You're not one of us. I hope that's making sense to everybody. Again, we're not telling you to go out and get sloshed, get bombed. This is an experiment we're doing on ourselves. We're taking the first step in trying to get well here. We want to find out, do I need to do this? You know, does this relate to me? Can I actually have 2 beers and leave, 3 beers, whatever it is, you know. It's not for me to tell you how much you need to drink, but it says drink and stop abruptly. Do one line and don't do another one. See what that's like for you. If you're anything like me, there was never just one. Whoever coined that "no one can eat just one," that Lay's potato chip, that guy must be a millionaire. Because he knew exactly what we were talking about. There was never just one in my story of anything, ever. It was always one, but it lasted a long time. And one turned into 2, turned into 10, turned into 50 very quickly. I belong here. This is for the person who's wet behind the ears that has no idea if they belong here. Well, let's find out, okay? This is how they were doing it back in the days. More times than not, by the time the person gets to the room, a lot of times, at least this has been my experience, I knew I was an alcoholic. No experimenting needed to be done. I knew I was a drug addict. I had already tried millions of times to stop on my own. Left to my own devices, I was using, So, it says there is no way of proving it. We believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. I don't know if I could have stopped early on. Maybe, but I used hard and I used daily for a long, long time. I can't speak to whether I could have stopped or not. This next sentence is underlined. It says, but the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. And that's important to note too. I wasn't looking to stop. 19, 20, 21, I'm out there having a good old time living in bars. It was fun for a time, Why would I stop? Alcohol's being glorified everywhere you go. I worked in the industry. It's just what I did. But then the day came where I drank myself into a position of being beyond human aid, and then I couldn't stop. It was way too late for that. We had passed, we'd gone well past the spree. Okay, this was like a way of life that if I didn't have it, I was in trouble. Now, was I like Bill W. hiding, bottles of gin by my, my headboard? No, but I had some rough mornings without drugs and alcohol. And I already knew by the time I got to the room that I absolutely belonged there. There was no talking my way out of it. I knew it was the last house on the block for me. So, we have heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here is one. So this is one of a few stories in this chapter that they're mind-blowing to me. I almost didn't believe they were real, these stories, but they are. And I've had some of this happen in my own life with other substances as well as alcohol, where I put together long periods of abstinence on my own, left to my own volition. I put my head to it, the willpower kicked up, I armored up, and I just didn't use. But I always, always, always went back. This first story says a man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. That drinking that sets you on that run, He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. There's that word again. That word control just keeps popping up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and circle it. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. So that's, boy, what a decision to make. A young man, burly man making money, and, well, I'm just not going to drink anymore. To think that someone had that kind of willpower to do that is mind-blowing to me. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55. I have the words bone dry. I have those circled, okay, because that's all he was. He was bone dry. He was just abstinent, devoid of the substance, basically, treading water for 25 years. That's hard to believe that someone's willpower, someone could have asserted themselves that much to do that. It's amazing what the mind can do when you really put, make that decision to do something. However, after a successful and happy business career of 25 years of being dry, it says, then, and the word then is circled, because we've got this mind-blowing accomplishment. But then, he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has. Okay, and this is where it gets tricky for people. Okay, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Okay, so 25 years of not drinking. You know, it's like 25 years of being in a career, same job. Where's my gold watch, man? You know, where's my finish line? Where are the cheerleaders? You know, where are my accolades? It's like I've put together 25 years. I've been successful. I've been fairly happy without alcohol. I can have a drink or two. You know, and if you are an alcoholic of the real variety, where those words control and choice keep popping up, you're in big trouble if you pick up that drink. I don't care how much time you've gotten under your belt. You know, this happened to me with a certain substance after 13 months. You know, and boy, I mean, I worked hard. You know, I mean, it was a grueling 13 months for me. I'm not even gonna lie. You know, I was more miserable without it than I was with it. But I knew that if I picked it up, my life was going to be in shambles. And, you know, honestly, this is what I was being told to do by the people I was working with. You know, just don't pick it up. You know, you can't get off on it. You can't get high off it if you don't pick it up. And boy, I don't even know how I made it that 13 months. And then one day the dam broke and I was off and running. And it was worse than it was before I started. That's very similar to what this man's story is, okay? So, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. In 2 months, I have 2 months underlined. Okay, 2 months of drinking after being clean and sober for 25 years. He was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. 2 months in a hospital. Wow, damn. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital. Meantime, there's that word, then. We're going to circle it again. Then, you know, there's always that next twist to the story. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found he could not. Here's a guy that put together 25 years and in less than 2 months could not stop drinking. His drinking career resumed, was worse than it was before he put that 25 years together, and he didn't know what to do. He had zero answers. Okay? This is not unusual. I mean, 25 years is a long time, but there are a lot of people that think they put together a couple of years, you know, the life starts getting better, you know, they start mending some fences, putting some weight on, whatever it is that will give you that, you know, that glimmer of hope that life's getting better. Obviously, your health's going to get better. You're not drinking. I can have a drink socially, you know. Yeah, I can smoke just a little, you know. No way. You know, if control and choice, if you're the real variety, it's going to be off to the races again. And that's what happened here. Goes on to say, every means of solving his problem which money could buy was at his disposal. So it wasn't like he was lacking. This dude was paid. He had money. He had everything he could possibly want. Okay? Couldn't stop drinking. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. I have 4 years underlined. 25 years of being bone dry, successful, and within 2 months in a hospital, and in 4 years he was dead. So what the book is trying to convey to you there is that there's never going to be a time, if you are an alcoholic of the real variety, where you're going to be able to drink successfully. It's just not ever going to happen. And how do you know if you're that person? Because you've taken that first step. You know, because you've tried all those things that we spoke about on page 31. Taking a drink, not taking a drink. You know, a lot of us do geographics. We move. You take yourself with you. You know, I mean, it was like mind-blowing to me when I found out that there was like alcohol in like other cities. You know, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of times I did those geographics to, you know, really thinking that I'd be able to get away from alcohol and not drink by just changing my environment. This disease goes with you wherever you are. It's in here and in here. It doesn't just go away. It needs to be worked on spiritually. And without that, it doesn't matter how much time you put together. 25 years is a long time. That's a long time. And that guy died within 4 years. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remain sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. I mean, we can't. That's a lie. You know, that is a lie. I don't know about anyone else's experience. I know for myself. There's absolutely no way I can have a drink right now and not want another 3, 4, 5, 10 drinks. I may be able to control it tonight moderately, but like that guy when 2 months was in the hospital, I would be that guy. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But here's a man who at 55 years, he's only 55, that's young, okay, found he was just where he had left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. This is going to be underlined. It says, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. There's never going to be a time where we're just not going to be alcoholic anymore, guys. It's not going to happen. Okay? Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in short time as bad as ever, and that's what happens when that abstinence ends. Abstinence, just not drinking, that's not the solution to this disease. We need to get, I believe, I try not to have too many opinions on here and come from the book, but I still go to a lot of meetings, and I think, one of the biggest problems we have in our meeting today is that, we're promoting going to meetings as a solution to alcoholism, when it's not. Just don't drink and go to meetings, being abstinent, we'll end up just like this guy, not all of us do, but I've seen this happen a lot, countless cases over and over and over the years. People with some of the best programs, I thought, look good, articulate, nice homes, wives, husbands, they've got everything they want, put together 20, 30 years, and then one day just that voice pops in and decides they can take a drink, and they do, and they die, or they're off and running, and they're miserable for years. Some make it back, some don't. It's really sad, and I'm grateful that this chapter's here really smashing this point home, because we need to understand that without a spiritual awakening, this is who we'll be if we are that variety of alcoholic. So, this is going to be highlighted orange. It says, if we are planning to stop drinking, there must, and the word must is circled, okay? If we want to stop and stay stopped, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. There's just never be, it's never going to be a day where I'll be able to, drink successfully. There'll never be a day where I put that substance, whatever my drug of choice is. Again, the single-minded focus of this book was alcoholism, men and women working the steps and finding God. But believe me, if cocaine is your drug of choice, this can help you. If you have a food problem, this can help you. If you have a sex problem, this can help you. This is the Swiss Army knife, the higher power piece, the altruistic piece, the not just being abstinent and going to a lot of meetings. You can find relief here. You can find help. I'm living proof. So many men and women are as well. So that's important. We're never going to be immune to alcohol. It's important that we understand that. They want us to understand that. There's never going to be that day where we've arrived. I've seen people with 30 years, 40 years, feel like they've made it, arrived, drink, and be done for good. It's sad. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they could stop, as he did, on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop. That was me. I was young, man. I was out there having fun, man. Women, the bars, man, that was fun. Music. I wasn't trying to stop drinking because it wasn't a problem then. But this is one of the problems that we find for our young people. None of them will really want to stop. And hardly one of them because of, and this is going to be underlined the rest of this sentence, the peculiar mental twist already acquired will find that he can win out. Thinking that, I can now put it down later in life. You're not going to win versus this disease. You're just not. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking 20 years. So this is important, Look, the time doesn't matter. Okay, I drank for 10, 11 years. I drank hard. I used every day. My story wasn't, I drank a little bit and then drank on the weekends. The day I picked up, man, I lived to use and I used to live. And I went at this deal hard. 10, 11 years, every day, and then stopped. Someone that does that for 10, 11 months could have the same result that I had in my 10, 11 years. It doesn't matter. You could find yourself as helpless as anyone who's had a longer drinking career than yours. It's pointless, bragging about what we did out there, because I could have done it for a decade, you could have done it for a year, and we're both in the same, the same boat. We cannot stop. Now, mind you, the physical aspect of the damage that I may have done may be more than that other person, but what does that matter? We already know what the problem is. Why are we glorifying it? Let's talk about the solution, okay? So, the next sentence is going to be underlined, and it says to be gravely affected. And the word gravely is circled. Okay, this is another one of those buzzwords, man. To be affected to the point where, this could bury you. One does not necessarily have to drink a long time or take the quantity some of us had. So why is it that we're getting into these pissing matches about what we did when we were out there? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I could have drank as much as Bill W. I could drink as little as Dr. Bob. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is control and choice. If you are an alcoholic of the variety where you can't stop or make the decision to start or stop, it doesn't matter how much you drink. Okay, if you're that alcoholic of that with that addictive nature, the obsession of the mind culminated with the phenomenon of craving, that doesn't matter. Okay, this is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished at their inability to stop. We who are familiar with the symptoms see large numbers of potential alcoholics among people everywhere, but try to get them to see it. This next sentence is POY orange for those of you that have been doing the work since day one. It says, as we look back, we feel as we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our own willpower. And that's just been my story. I drank for maybe a whole decade more than at the point where I felt like I could stop on my own. So, the next sentence is going to be green. This is the second action of the first step. So we already spoke about the first action of the first step that we highlighted green at the beginning of the chapter, going out, to a bar, whatever, wherever it is you drink, doing it at home, and trying to drink and stop abruptly. We already spoke about that, doing this experiment on yourself to find out what kind, are you an alcoholic, The second action of the first step, it says, if anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for a year. So that's just another thing that you can do to put yourself in a position to find out, is this you? Most people don't last a year. Hell, I didn't last a couple days. Okay? The bottom line is I tried, and I just, my body wanted it too bad. A year's a long time. I did that with another substance, and boy, talk about willpower. I surprised myself how strong I was, but I went back to it. The bottom line is I succumbed to the pressure to do it, and without a spiritual awakening, I treaded water for as long as I could. Okay, so that's the second action of the first step. That's highlighted green. The next sentence says, if he is a real alcoholic, and the word real is circled, of course, and very far advanced, there's a scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. I think that's what happened to me. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. So they're telling you, they're like doubting that that's going to happen. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. Me, I put a line in the sand and then I would cross it a day later, or an hour, sometimes even an hour later. I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, I can do this, and then just be off and running, drinking, drugging, in less than an hour, okay? Next paragraph, it says, for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether, and the goal is we're trying to stop altogether. So, I have this whole paragraph starred, and then the next sentence is going to be highlighted orange. It says, we are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. But first of all, do you want to stop? Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose. Okay, the word choose is circled again. Choice, control, choice, control. It's just like back and forth. Do you think they're trying to tell us something here? Okay, choose whether he will drink or not. So that's a powerful paragraph. Okay, we're going to read that again. We're assuming, of course, that the reader wants to stop. And if that person wants to stop, whether that person can quit on a non-spiritual basis, it depends on the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. If you can choose to drink or not drink, dude, you're not one of us. You're not one of us, and you don't need this. But if you can't, that spiritual experience is absolutely necessary. That's been my experience. That's been the bitter experience of drug addicts and alcoholics throughout history. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is going to be highlighted orange. It says, this is the baffling feature of alcoholism. Baffling, circled. Another one of those buzzwords, baffling. When you think about baffling, something that is just absolutely so confusing, you just have no answer. It's like the Super Bowl, this last year's Super Bowl. I mean, Denver was great. They had a super year. Dude, that Seattle defense was baffling to them. They had absolutely no answer for them. That's like this alcoholic, this disease, this alcoholism. It left me befuddled. I was absolutely beaten. I was clueless. I had no idea why I couldn't stop. Okay? This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. The utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. No matter what, you just can't leave it alone. Okay? Let's continue on. It says, how then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. This is going to be highlighted orange. It says, so we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking. Obviously, this is the crux of the problem. So we're talking about what happens before the drink goes in. What's going on in here, okay? That you're going to hear the book talk about that peculiar mental twist, mental states, the obsession of the mind around the alcohol, around the drugs, that happens prior to the relapse happening. Relapse happens long before relapse happens. I'm sure some of you have heard that. And so I think we're going to stop there and pick up that point next week where we go into, the precursor of picking up. And it's a fairly long chapter. I may have to break it up into 3. I'll try to finish this up next week, and hopefully we can go from there. So I would definitely be reading this stuff over, going over this stuff. I'm obviously shouting all types of stuff at the screen and color this and color that. Go over it, make sure you understand it, guys. Ask yourself, where do I fall in relation to this? Has this happened to me? Has this been my experience? And go from there. It's not about so much, understanding the differences between my story and your story, my story and Bill's story, your story and the people's story in the room, but the similarities, the understanding that did this happen to me? Was it like this when I drank? Was it like this when I drug? Is it like that for me now? And understand that if that be the case, we're looking towards that spiritual awakening, and if you're watching this and you're new and you're not sure if you're an alcoholic, you now understand how to take that first step and find out. It's important that we concede to our innermost selves that we are alcoholic. We can't go for anywhere else. We can't go anywhere if we don't have that starting point, that jumping off point to deal with. So that's all for me this week and Trudge, a journey to being recovered. Again, I thank everybody for allowing me to be of service. I love doing this in this capacity. I don't know how many people are watching, if anyone's watching it really at all, but I hope that, even if there's one person out there that I'm able to reach, I'm grateful because I get to stay recovered by being, giving and working, in this altruistic, this plane that I get to just give. Because before it wasn't about giving, it was about what I can take. And today, if I can help another addict or alcoholic, I'll die trying because I'm grateful to have this gift that I was given. I understand today that, it takes more than just being sober to be sober. Yeah, at least that's been my experience. And I'm pretty sure that's been the experience of a lot of other people that came before me. And so, once again, my name is Dexter. I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's enough for this week of Trudge. Next week's submission will be the second part of more about alcoholism. Until such time, I hope everybody is well. I hope your families are well. Continue to remember to pay it forward, to pay attention, and to rely on God and not on others. Until such time, we'll see you guys next week. Namaste.